So here we are, 8.1c in elementary algebra, and let's jump to some other problems here. Let's look at example 8, where we're simplifying the expression. So it says, what is the square root 36 plus the square root of 64? So when you're doing these problems, you cannot add anything that has a radical unless the number under the radical is the same number. Okay, if it's not the same number, you can't add them. So what I can do is look at them individually. Square root of 36 is 6. What's the square root of 64? 8. 8 times 8 is 64. Now I can add them because they're just regular old numbers. If I have the square root of 36 plus 64, well, they're both under the same radical sign, so I can add them. So when they share a radical sign, I can add them. When they don't share a radical sign, I cannot add them unless the number is the same. And square root of 100, number times itself, gives me 100. That would be 10. All right, so let's look at C in example 8. 3 square root of 5 over 6. Okay, so what I do is I look at these as two different pieces. So I separate that and look at, 3 over 6. Well, what is 3 over 6? It's 1/2. And I don't do anything with my radical. So I can just write this as the square root of 5 over 2. Okay, so if they're not under radical signs, I can look at them as just a fraction, 3 over 6, and reduce it to get 1/2 and just kind of drag that square root of 5 with me. Okay, let's see here. D, 4 plus 6 square root of 3 over 4. Okay, why can I not add these? This one has a radical, this one does not, so you can't add them. Okay, you can't add a radical to a non-radical. So what can I do? Well, this is 4 plus 6 square root of 3 all over 4. So remember, in the olden days, we would split these up. Okay, so what's 4 over 4? 6 over 4 can be reduced. And that square root of 3, we just tag on there. So we get that for an answer. The book shows the answer of 2 plus 3 square root of 3 over 2, which is the same as what I've got there. Okay, but let me show you where they got that. What they did is they looked at this here, and they looked and saw there is a 2 that's common to both of those. And then 2 over 4 is 1/2. And then we can get rid of that 1. So this is how they came up with that. Either way is right. Doesn't really matter as far as that is concerned. All right, so the last part of this section, well, there's two more parts. One is called the spiral of roots, but I skipped that. We are going to just do a revisit of the Pythagorean theorem. I started teaching math a long time ago, and I got students in my math class that had math with a teacher who was not a real math teacher, and they kept talking about the Pythagorean theorem, and I couldn't figure out what in the world they were talking about. And the math teacher, who really wasn't a math teacher, didn't know how to pronounce Pythagorean. So anyway, that's how you pronounce it. And if you remember, the Pythagorean theorem means that we have a right triangle. Oh, God, that's a crappy triangle. Just because I'm a math teacher doesn't mean I can draw triangles. Okay, so remember, one side is A, one side is B, and the longest side is always C. And the way you label these, capital, 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 and this is just some free information. If this is lowercase b, the one across from it will be capital B. Lower cross A, the one across from it is capital A. Lowercase c, well, the one across from it, they both look the same, but this is an uppercase C. You really don't have to even label this C. But anyway, that's how you label it. And example 9 gives me a story problem, and I like to draw the pictures. So a tent pole is 8 feet in length. A tent pole. It's a long tent pole. 8 feet in length. And it makes an angle of 90 degrees with the ground. Okay, so there's the ground. There's my 90 degrees. That's to tell you it's a right triangle. One end of a rope is attached to the top of the pole, so attached up there. The other end is anchored to the ground 6 feet from the bottom of the pole. So it's going to go down to here in that 6 feet. Find the length of the rope. We're looking for that length of the rope. So using Pythagorean, remember Pythagorean looks like this. And the reason we're revisiting it is because now that you understand radicals, we can use that knowledge. All right, so a squared doesn't matter if it's the 6 or the 8. The a and b do not matter. You can use either one. So the formula in this particular section, if you look next to the triangle, top of page 529, it gives you a formula. This is the Pythagorean theorem, just kind of moved around a little bit. So this is the formula to find C. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to plug in what we know. C equals the square root of 8 squared plus 6 squared. So C equals the square root of 64 plus 36, or C equals the square root of 100. So what number times itself gives me 100? 10. So the length of this rope that I need right there is 10 feet. And that's it for 8.1. And they're going to give you a ton of problems in the problem set. So if you look at those problems, let's kind of glance at those real quick in the short period of time I have left in this, dare I say, third video. 1 through 44 shouldn't give you any trouble. 45 through 64. Now let's look at 64. Square root of 16 a to the 4th b 8. Okay, you know the square root of 16. You know this is a 2. 2 goes into 4 twice. 2 goes into 8 4 times, and you're done. Okay, no remainder, so there's nothing left under the radical. If it goes in evenly, the radical goes away. Okay, use your calculator to do 65 to 72. Something like 74. I'm not sure why they threw that in there, but they're just asking you to find the greatest common factor. What is the greatest number that's common to both these terms? A 5. 5 goes into 10, 5 goes into 5. Okay, so that's all they're looking for there. B is the same way. 10 and 5 square root of 6. Well, 5 is common to both the 10 and the 5. You don't even worry about the square root of 6. You kind of pretend like it's a variable there, like an x, and you'll be fine. 75 to 82, we did those. You know that you cannot add the square root of 9 plus the square root of 16 because they're two different numbers, so you find out what they both are, and then you can get the answer. Number 82, you do the math underneath the radical sign first, and then take the radical. Okay, so when you're simplifying these, you do anything underneath the radical first, and then take the radical of it. Okay, this one here, you can't do anything under there, so you just take the radical of that, radical of that. And I think you'll be okay for the rest of it. So that is 8.1.